welcome everyone. Welcome to Oz by Drone. I'm Greg, and our regular co-host John is not here today. We've got Lloyd filling in. Hey Lloyd.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing good. You know, I was enjoying, I'm just going to leave the music. Oh, my producer took the music away 2 seconds too early. I was going to leave the music there because I was enjoying watching our guest dancing in the background in the preview shot and, you know, doing the, well, not quite the hokey pokey, but
yeah,
it was good. It was good.
Yeah,
we'll have him up later. Maybe we can bring the music back later. Anyway, welcome. Thanks for filling in for John. John is away this week at the Manly Jazz Festival. For those who don't know, John is a musician. Oh, hang on, strike that. Sorry, he's a drummer, almost a musician, but he's got his band playing at the Manly Jazz Festival, so that's why he's not here this week.
I have a question. Isn't that kind of an oxymoron? I didn't know jazz was manly.
Moving right along. I usually like to start the show out with what have we been doing this week. I've got a few things that I did want to share right out the beginning of the show. Streaming is something that, you know, obviously we're streaming this show right now. I did want to do multi-streaming. I did a test during the week and it didn't work today, so we reverted back to the standard YouTube only. Later on during the week, I'll have a play with it, see if we can get that working for next week. Something that came up this week, just a quick one off the top, David Lynch and Twin Peaks. We've got a photo that I'll just quickly put on the screen. I am a Twin Peaks addict, and I hear rumors that Twin Peaks, they're going to be making a return performance, the return episode, and there's a photo of Dale Cooper. Have you ever watched Twin Peaks, Lloyd? Are you a fan?
I'm not a fan, but I've watched it, but it's been a long time. I was just like, my cousin, he was just all ate up with it, and I just was... It's one of those, I could take it or leave it, you know.
Oh, no, I'll take it. I'll take it anytime.
Yeah.
One other thing I've been up to this week is replacing brushes on a motor in my parents' washing machine. That was a fun experiment, something I've never done before, but that certainly was an interesting experience and a little bit of black dust here and there. Have you ever done motor repairs?
I have. There again, that's been a long time since I've done that. I can't get down. I'm too fat and old to get behind a washer dryer anymore, so I just go buy a new one.
Yeah. And one last quick one. Yeah, an announcement, time zone change. Australia is doing that daylight saving thing. So next week, we are going to be, for those in America, an hour earlier, I believe. So just to make sure you get the right time, have a look at the YouTube event and you'll be able to find out what time it is for next week. So what's happening with you, Lloyd? Anything? Yeah, anything interesting?
Nothing. I was trying to make this an all Wirecast show tonight, and some of you may have noticed I've got a different background. That's because I had to actually use my backdrop because at the last minute nothing worked, so I had to just go with the straight camera.
Well, you have to remember, this is Wirecast. So speaking of Wirecast, let's move on and we'll get into the news. Okay, and our first story today is this one. So the drone hunter test flight. Russia's new attack drone took flight for the first time alongside one of their fighter jets. Now, which channel is that so I can fade that audio? There we go. Alongside one of their fighter jets, and the idea is to provide critical battle space information to Russia's fighters. The Defense Ministry announced that the new drone would fly alongside the country's most advanced fighter jet, giving them, they say, an edge in battle. PR aside, look, it's an interesting flight. It's an interesting piece of technology, their new drone. I don't know if it's autonomous. I don't know if it's autonomous or if it's being flown by the ground. I couldn't work that bit out, but certainly a lot of the Boeing equipment that I've seen around certainly is autonomous air support. So it'd be interesting to find that out. Have you seen this one?
I've seen parts of it. Yeah, I looked at it a little bit this week. I saw it pop up on something I can't remember. It looks interesting, but I don't know. I'm like you. I don't know if it's autonomous or not.
Yeah, be good to find that one out. Our second story this week, Drone Shield has announced that it has won the Australian Department of Defence tender for portable drone detection devices. Now, we've heard about portable drone detection devices before, but this is crazy. It's actually in their uniform. It pops out. The contract is for approximately $700,000 Australian. Drone Shield expects to deliver the solution during the 2019 calendar year.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
here's
awesome.
the interesting thing. That solution is detection only. It's not mitigation. Certainly Australia's drone laws at the moment and aviation laws in general, it's illegal to take any action against an aircraft. Now, obviously, if there was a war on, there'd be different provisions if there was military things happening. But if you're not in a state of wartime, it's illegal even for the military to go and take action against an aircraft of any kind.
Yeah, I think that's probably used for more battlefield, like over in the Middle East. I don't know where where Australia has their troops deployed, but I'm sure that's what it's intended for, to take out the kind of drones like they've been using over in the Middle East lately, such as, God, I must have seen 20 stories this week on different things over in Saudi Arabia, the pipeline over there, and all sorts of stuff like that.
It's happening all the time.
Yeah.
So let's move on from there to our next one. And this one is about battery and changing batteries. Now, flight time is always an annoying thing. Drone flight time is limited because of battery life. A team of scientists were not happy with this, and they asked themselves, why not swap the drone batteries in the air? So you've got military and so forth, general aviation planes that can do refueling in the air. Why not drones? The solution that they proposed is to bring the replacement battery to the drone by fitting it with rotors so it can fly. Sure, you need some fancy footwork to exchange the swappable drone batteries in the air. However, if we can land a spacecraft on asteroids, surely we can make that happen.
Using a primary battery. Once the flying battery works, the secondary battery is connected to the circuit. The two batteries are now connected in parallel. The diodes prevent any backflow of
It looks
current
like drones
due to a
doing things they
voltage
shouldn't be
difference
doing in
between
the air,
batteries.
especially in
With the
public.
secondary battery connected,
I'll just leave
the
my
relay is
comment
now
at that.
opened by applying a voltage at the gate terminal of the MOSFET.
Next thing you know,
Now,
we're
the
going to have a
main
bunch of little
quadcopter,
drones
however,
coming
is
off of
using
that.
only the secondary battery.
But if you have a look here, right, so the original battery time of the original primary drone was, I can't remember the number, but it was maybe 12 or 13 minutes.
And the main quadcopter
And my sister-in-law is calling me.
Another fully charged flying
You're used to people calling you in the middle of a show.
I have this Australian chap that keeps, he keeps bothering me every Monday night. I don't know what the problem is.
Hey, Gretchen, you're on YouTube.
The main quadcopter alone can only hover for 12 minutes.
Yes, you are.
Maximizing the flight time by adding more battery, you use a flight time
Okay,
of
call you later. Bye.
But using the dock, switch, and dock repeat approach, we were able
At least
to
I know
achieve
it happens
a
to the
flight time
best of us.
57 minutes for the main quadcopter.
So the simple message about this is the original battery time was about 12, 13, 15 minutes. I can't remember, but they got up to 55, 56, 57 minutes before the drone had to land. And that circuit diagram that we saw on the screen, it disconnected the main battery, then used only the surrogate battery and so on. And then when the surrogate took off, it went back to the main battery and made sure that it could keep the main battery for as long as possible before it was forced to land. So cool idea.
Yeah, I can see, say, like when they're doing, high power line inspections or something, and they can just keep going up a line, just take a new, but I don't know how practical it is. It's not something you and I would use, I don't think. But
no, but look, in terms of research and finding ideas to how to do these kind of things, I think it's cool. Yeah. Next one we've got is a Ghost UAS. That's the name of the product. The modular Ghost UAS is a single rotor, long endurance, high speed, American-made drone, combining point-and-click autonomous operation with the power and endurance of a helicopter. It's able to also fit in a backpack and still be small and portable. One operator can control multiple ghosts to enable large-scale operations like patrolling entire sectors or quickly mapping unknown terrain. Now, that's the military application, but I hear they're also using this for potentially delivery and cargo-y kind of things, moving things around. So really, it's just an interesting looking drone.
Yeah, that is a cool look. It looks like a So it looks like a mosquito or something.
Yeah.
Except larger size.
Absolutely. We got two more stories that I'm going to quickly rip through, and then we're going to interrupt the news and we'll go to our guest. And our next story, Australia takes the lead. They're taking a leading role in drone technology, while the public is finding it harder to fly consumer drones because of regulations. There's a whole world of remotely piloted aircraft industry emerging, serving the community and creating jobs. Let's have a look.
The World of Drones Congress in Brisbane is where you'll see Australian ingenuity being exported to the world. The Westpac Little Ripper program has already saved lives in the surf, a world's first. It's spotting sharks and now spotting crocodiles.
Oh, that's cool.
The high degree of accuracy is made possible by using Amazon's web services to analyse the streaming video in real time.
There's been no one else out there, and we've got international parties coming to us on a daily basis. We've got Reunion Islands, America, South Africa, and now starting to reach into India and the likes in relation to the croc spotter.
Another Australian innovation is insect pollination analysis via drone, vital for crop farming.
Very difficult to walk through a crop without damaging it. A drone can do that in a matter of minutes and bring back a whole sample of the insects and pollinators on that crop.
The Australian Defence Force is a big user of drones, large and small, and drone pilots are wanted.
At events such as these, we have a lot of people approach us and are curious about what we do and want to know how they can join and how they can be a part of the Army drone capability.
But for many, the future in drones is this, racing.
In year 10, so I'm going through school and aiming to go to university, so I definitely have a big focus on school just as a backup, but yeah, I can definitely see careers in any drone industry.
The sky's the limit. Jurosen, Sky News, Brisbane.
So I gather you lost audio either before or during that clip?
Just as it started.
Yeah, sorry about that. One of the wonders of Wirecast. But to be fair, I am using a beta version. I'm waiting for the next one to come out. The previous one, you could hear it, but we couldn't turn the audio down. And this one, you can't hear it at all. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay. We've got one more story before we bring in our guest. And this one is a SOS detector. In 2017, Hurricane Maria struck in Puerto Rico. The people in this community were frustrated that help was promised but never came. So the community came together and painted water and food on the ground as an SOS message in the hope that helicopters and planes would see their message. Less than a year after the hurricane hit, Pedro Cruz attended the Call for Code in Puerto Rico. It was a hackathon. And he was intrigued by a challenge that asks developers to create sustainable solutions to help communities prepare for and respond to and recover from natural disasters. Let's have a look at the video.
Right after the hurricane, I was at my apartment and I was worried for my parents, my family, and my grandma. We had no communications whatsoever. I saw all the destruction, I got more worried. Thankfully, I had my drone and I visited my parents. They were all right, but my grandma, she was a little bit further away. The roads were closed, so I used my drones to check on her. She actually waved at me, she was all right. So that's where the part of the inspiration came from. In Nahuatl, I saw, first of all, there was a massive destruction. There used to be a basketball court, it was all destroyed. And in the parking lot of that basketball court, there was a message. It had the date, it had messages from families saying, hey, we're alive, there's 0 people dead in this community, we're okay. And you can see all these messages all around the island, SOS messages, if they need water, food, and that's really where the inspiration came from. So the idea started with OCR, object character recognition. First of all, I saw the big problem, the challenge of detecting handwriting, and I thought of a way we could standardize these messages. So I started creating a universal language based on icons. And in its implementation, it starts with this mat. Citizens and communities, they could place these mats either on the roof or in their parking lot, on the roads. They could put on the left side of the mat their needs.
So I'll just pause the video there. And the idea basically is they've got these pictures or the icons and they're letting people know through that, and the drones can see it. and detect it and send people out to go and provide assistance depending on what is required. So really cool idea. And you didn't hear any of it, so you can't comment on it.
No.
Okay.
So I was actually listening to it on I was listening to it on the stream. This guy on YouTube had it running.
Who would that be? That'd be Oz by Drone. Are you watching the show
and
in the show at the same time?
I'm trying, yeah.
Yeah. So at this time, we're going to pause the news just for a little while, and we're going to go to, as I get to the right title screen, and wait for it to render, because apparently it's so hard to get this name up. I'm watching the little clock spin at the moment. I don't know why that is. I mean, I've got the most powerful MacBook that money can buy.
Right.
And it's got an hourglass waiting before I can put his name up on the screen. This is using Title Alive, folks. It's a great piece of software when it works, but today it doesn't want to. Still waiting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ah, there you go.
Our guest, Drone Worship Dan. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
What's going on there, Greg? How's it going, Lloyd?
I'm good. How about you?
Excellent.
You know, I'm a glutton for punishment. Lloyd is a bit of a firecracker at the best of times, but then when I've got you two together, how is this going to end up?
It's going to be fun, man. That's all there is to it. It'll be a good time.
Anyway, it's all good. So, Dan, I wanted to get you on to talk about the Solo. It's something that you're passionate about.
Is there something I can touch on real quick?
Sorry? Yeah, go.
Is there something I can touch on? You did the battery video during the news. And I wanted to point something out that I saw real fast. I noticed that when the other drone would try to land on it, it was actually causing it to go into the first stages of VRS. Did anybody else notice that? The downward thrust on the opposite props pointing down already was actually going right into the prop wash. I'm wondering how safe that is to do that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? No.
Noticed it, and they need a little bit more, shall we say, software intelligence to work out how to deal with that. And maybe the answer is really simple. Having the props on the landing drone at 45 degrees. Really simple.
Yes, there we go.
Okay, so Dan, talk to me. The Solo. You got your first Solo when? How long ago?
Oh gosh, it's been over 3 years now. Man, I got into it after I compared it to a Q500 from Unique, and I put them head to head, and I realized that the Solo is just a much better platform across the board. And it wasn't even it was night and day difference between what the Q500 had to offer from Unique and what Solo had to offer me. So from there, it started this long-winded journey of exploration into open source and seeing what these things are actually capable of. So, yeah, about 3.5 years, almost 4 years.
Sorry, say again?
I said, so about 3.5 years, maybe 4 years now.
Okay, and you've fallen in love with this drone. What is it about it that made you think of it as the best drone that money can buy, or money can't buy anymore?
It didn't start off that way for me. I think it didn't end up that way until coming into leaving 2017, end of 2017. We started getting updates with a new app service called Solex offered by Kelly Schruck. And Kelly made the most incredible interface for the Solo because the old Solo app was phasing out and there were no updates coming from it. So when that started to happen, all these developers got together that write Python coding and all this fun scripting, and they started building new firmware for it. And then we started getting upgrades on the brain. We got the green cube. For those of you who don't know, the Solo runs on RGCopter and Pickhawks, which is normally APM setup for those open source guys out there. And man, it was just a totally different world once it started to really open up, and 3DR said they were kind of done with the project and handed it off to a group of Facebook guys who decided to turn it into something well beyond what it was ever meant to become. So it was a closed system.
Let me just ask you, it was a closed system, and it was only after it was opened up that's when you saw the wonders?
Yep. Well, no, I mean, it was still a fun drone for what it was, but running stock, you basically, you're stuck with whatever stock has to offer. And it was still probably the best drone I'd put my hands on at the time, because my other one would have been the Phantom 3 Standard. So it was a head-to-head between Phantom 3 Standard, I guess, and 3DR Solo. But once again, the 3DR, I already had a GoPro Hero 4. It just opened up so many more possibilities. I was able to get further range. Then Solex came out. 46 Smart Shots came out for it. It was just a totally different world. So,
by the way, if you can move your camera down a little bit, because every time the comments come up, it's, there we go.
Let's do this. Is that better?
A little bit better,
yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
That's all right. That's all right.
There's some good comments coming in out there.
Yeah. So would you say the hardware platform is what made it, or is it the software platform that made it, and is it the open source part of that made it incredible? What about the hardware is amazing?
I think it's a mix of both. I think having the Pickhawks in there was a real game changer when they made it to open source, because, like I said, originally it was closed system. You couldn't really do much with it. And then when they released it and they allowed you to start tampering with parameters and all the other fun stuff that comes along with open source, it really became a different drone. The firmware side of things got better as we went on with Open Solo platform. When Matt Lawrence started making Open Solo upgrades for, the developer side of things, I think we got Open Solo 3.0, and then the most stable one was 3.7. But it really honed in the abilities of what the Solo had problems with right out the hole, with landing issues and flipping upside down because the compass was confused. And they solved all of that as time went on, and it just progressively became a better drone, not just firmware, but hardware as well. So, do
you think some of those problems contributed to the failure of the drone as a commercial product?
Absolutely. I'm still gonna push towards more marketing was the reason for the failure than just functionality. But yes, it did have quite a lot of those problems are actually being caused by what's that? So Best Buy. Can I say Best Buy? Is that cool? I've already said it twice now.
I'm an Australian channel.
Okay. So Best Buy was actually stacking the Solos in a weird format on the pallets. And what was happening is the compass was in the leg, and they would set these Solos on a stacked pallet, and the compass would be next to the motor, and it would do something weird to the compass. So when people were purchasing it from Best Buy, like 90% of them that left Best Buy ended up having some kind of failure or problem, whether it was a flyaway, or it was the compass would never calibrate, like massive issues out the hole. But later on, they realized it was just because of the way they were putting them on the pallet. So that was the first real big mistake that they made. After that, it was all marketing. They didn't realize how to market this thing correctly. So it was just horrible marketing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me ask, hypothetically, if it didn't have the third-party camera and it was an integrated gimbal and camera, do you think that would have been enough to have it have been successful? I know you say there are marketing issues, but that's one of the things that, You
got to remember, though, there wasn't a third-party setup available for it. The gimbal didn't get released until 2 or 3 months after the original release of the Solo. By then, people had already bought a $600 GoPro Hero 4. They had already purchased a $2,000 drone. It was actually $1,000 out the hole with just a GoPro hookup to it. So you didn't get any stabilized footage unless you bought the gimbal. The gimbal was I think it was like $350 for the gimbal. And then you still on top of that had to purchase a GoPro Hero 4. So your entire purchase after you buy a couple batteries was over $2,000. And I think that was a real turnoff point. They marketed it as the drone that could do everything. And I think what it was really meant for was action adventure stuff. So I don't think people really wanted to. There was no third-party gimbal accessories available. It was just whatever Solo had come up with for the gimbal, or 3DR, I should say. Whatever 3DR released for the gimbal. So.
Okay, so if we have a look at it overall, it obviously didn't succeed. It's no longer being produced. So what do you think are the good things that they did that other companies can learn from or should include in the way that they market and sell their products? And conversely, what mistakes did they make that other companies, and let's use the Skydio as an example, what mistakes should Skydio and other new startups avoid, the good and the bad?
It's interesting that you compare Skydio to 3DR because it does fall into the same category. I feel like the 3DR's marketing was generally based towards action photography. You know what I'm saying? And videography. And that's exactly what the Skydio is being pushed as, more of a videography platform with AI, artificial intelligence for follow me mode, which is kind of what they were gearing up for with the Solo. It was a follow me drone that was designed to have 17 different types of follow me, leash mode, all these different things. And the difference though between the Skydio and 3DR is that they're not asking you to go out and purchase a GoPro Hero 4 or a new GoPro to make the system work. They're not asking you to purchase a gimbal. This already is built into the product. So, we're talking 2015 tech versus 2019 tech. There's a big flop over here. But I think they could really learn from the way 3DR's marketing campaign went, trying to push it and ask people to make these extreme other purchases. I think if you're a drone company and you're going to put out an action drone, it needs to have a gimbal and it needs to have a camera already ready to go. Okay. Obviously, we see what happens when you don't include the entire package. The drone will fail. It's going to fail the market. Nobody wants to go out and buy, other cameras for it or other gimbals to make the system work. You know what I mean? Unless we're talking about DJI, like the Matrice or something like that, where you're looking for a very select type of photography for professional use. So
yeah, that's what Andrew Silverfox was saying. In a hobby drone, you don't want that. You want guys like me. I'm going to go buy a drone that's got everything I need, so I can fly it out of the box, and not because I'm not going to spend $10,000 to buy a drone to take pictures of my football field up here, once a week.
Yeah.
which is all I ever do with it.
So let's do one thing before we move on to the next. Is I want you to think about Franken drone. What would you do? What bits of the Solo would you take if you're going to go and build up your drone? You're the creator. What would you do?
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm getting ready to do that right now. I'm getting ready to tear a Solo apart and put it on a DJI 540 frame or 520 frame. And it's going to be running on Arducopter. It's going to have retractable legs. If you guys don't know, only the first 6 or 7 ports, signal ports for parameter adjustment are taken up on the Solo. It goes all the way up to like 20. So there's a bunch of open extensions on there for open source use. And now that it is completely open source, it means you can attach all these cool things like Doppler obstacle avoidance. It's the potential now that it's open source is endless. You can actually really get involved and have some fun. I would say I want to do larger batteries for extended flight time. I want to rewrite some of the Python scripting so that I can actually use the larger batteries, get proper telemetry. I would like to build it into a larger frame, use different ESCs and larger motors, and I would absolutely love to set it up with a DSLR rig so I can carry a very nice camera.
Okay, so we know where to find Franken drone, and if you go to the Drone Worship channel, that's where you can find it, I'm sure, at some point in the future. So what we're going to do now, just because I think there's some parallels to the Skydio being launched, we're just going to quickly have a continuation of our news, and we'll keep you around for a little bit as well. So we're going to go with the Skydio news, and my producer is signaling to me. She's saying, I have no idea. Doesn't matter. I don't know what she's saying. The Skydio sold out. It was launched with a flurry of bloggers and YouTubers getting in to comment on the new product. The good news is that the price point is set at $999 US. The bad news is that they're already out of stock before they start shipping. The first production run is due to start shipping in November for those who make a $100 down payment. That batch has already sold out the day after the drone was announced. So any new orders now will arrive in 2020, according to a tweet from Skydio. So there's just a few little photos that we picked up, and we've got their marketing video. Let's put that video up, and I'll just turn the audio down so we can chat over it.
Now I hear it again.
Ooh. You can hear it again now?
For a second, and then you turned it down and it went dead. It was either real loud or not at all.
Wow, that was loud. Oof.
Oh, I don't know.
It's Wirecrash Cast.
For what? Anyway, my producer was talking to me about the Solo banner that we forgot to put up before. It doesn't matter. We can skip that. So here's the Skydio. So just let's quickly review the features. The main thing that I think the Skydio, in my mind, is just another drone, but the things that they've got that make it different and unique, their tracking capabilities, because they've got the external tracking device, the little key fob thing, this thing. You put it in your pocket, of course it's going to be able to find you because you're sending GPS coordinates back to the drone. So that makes tracking really, really easy. Second thing is obstacle avoidance. They've got some really cool obstacle avoidance, and we saw that in the Skydio V1. That's kind of software. Now, if we think about this from the perspective of the Solo, right? So the hardware platform's there, and there are many other hardware platforms around. It's just the software. So it's only a matter of time before someone else does improve their tracking. Your thoughts, Dan?
I would, on top of that, I would like to say that there is also another thing that we're learning about now with the Skydio 2 is that it has tandem tracking mode, which I was unaware of until the other night. It allows you to track two objects at the same time within reason, as long as they're tandem, which is next to each other. So what's cool about that is, like, let's say you had two cars drifting, right? And they were tandem drifting. If one fell behind the other, it would actually move back automatically to try to keep both cars in frame until it couldn't, and then it would take the one that it can see the best and focus on that one if it loses one of them. That is something I have not seen a drone do yet, tandem tracking. That just... it would be absolutely awesome.
And again, we would assume that both vehicles would have the key fob thing in their pocket.
Yeah.
Or in the car.
No. Lockable screen. So you would take your fingers on your phone and you would just lock each target in. Interesting, huh?
Well, I think to be able to track them at speed, certainly tandem tracking, they're going to need to be GPS assisted with those remote transmitters in the vehicle. Sure, you can select it on the screen and it looks like you're just that one and that one, but how well it works, I think, is going to be dependent on those fobs. But that's just my thinking.
Didn't we see that in the first one, though? It was just a lockable, and it did an excellent job of chasing people through trees without having anything else with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why I said, I mean, if you have an open area and you're doing tandem tracking, I would think it would work pretty good. Like I said, it's going to do its best to keep both vehicles in frame or whatever you're locking onto. So two people riding a bike, one starts to get away from the other, it's going to focus on the closer one, the other person will pull off. But it does its best to try to keep both. It's kind of like a cinematography thing. I like that aspect. I like that they're reaching for new things. So.
Yeah. Okay. Look, it's an interesting product. How do you think it's going to go based on what we've spoken about a few moments ago with the 3DR, their end-of-life nature? What's going to happen to Skydio? What do you think? What's the future?
I think that this one is going to do very well for itself. It is coming with all the bells and whistles out the hole except for the transmitter, which would be your choice. That's a very minimal price point to be asking. I mean, $99 plus $150, I would say that's very reasonable for what they're asking. The difference with the Solo was it was over a $2,200 purchase by the time you bought everything, and that seemed a bit crazy to me. So I see this going very well for them. My only concern is that they are an MIT company, and we were talking about this earlier. How many of these do you think they'll actually be able to produce before they stop the run? 10,000, 20,000 units? They're not going to be mass producing this, that's for sure.
Well, they've already basically said they've sold out their first production run, so that's already happened.
Yeah. But I mean, going into 2020, how many do you think they'll actually be able to knock out in 2020? I don't think they have a large facility they're building these in. I mean, I'm sure it's a building, but I don't think they could mass produce them if they needed to. Not on any kind of level that would make sense to DJI or Unique or any of these other large companies. You know?
Yeah, I think so. And just looking into the future, I think it's fair to say that MIT would want to offload that at an appropriate time, but probably hang on to some of the IP and license that out under some patents or something like that. That's my prediction anyway.
I would agree with that.
I just saw a comment from Drone Strike. It's cool, but I see problems with line of sight if you're the pilot and the subject. Interesting comment. Are you the pilot?
I was waiting for that to come up.
Are you the pilot? Now, certainly in Australia anyway, you couldn't actually fly this in Australia because autonomous flight is not actually permitted under our regulations currently.
Really?
That's why they're selling in the United States.
Yeah, you can have them assisted, right? Kind of like a Tesla can do driver assist, but you still got to have your hands on the control, and that's kind of legal, right? Even that one's not legal in Australia, but it is in the US. But a drone totally under the control of the software, not yet legal in this country. FAA, that'd be an interesting one. I don't know if people have looked at that yet.
Huh. I mean, I knew that was going to pop up at some point as a question, but I guess I never really thought to look into it deeper than that. I may just call the FAA and record that phone call asking questions. That's a really good idea.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to be negative against the drone, against the product. But
right.
Let me ask you this, right? So something happens. Who are you going to sue?
True.
Sorry, but I've got to ask, right?
Well,
oh boy.
I just thought of something now. One of the things is that's one reason I liked my my Spark and my Mavic Air, because I can put it on follow me. I'm not flying it. Yeah, I've got the controls in my hand, but still, just like with that fob, you have the control in your pocket or whatever. I'm not flying it. It's flying behind me, walking behind me. So what makes this that much different?
Because you can't see it.
It's not so much about see it.
If I've got my back turned to my drone and I'm walking down the street, I can't see it either.
No, look, from a purely line of sight perspective, I don't have a problem with that, right? So the law doesn't say you have to have your eyeballs on the drone at all times. As long as you have the capability to not be obstructed by something else, you're meeting the requirements of line of sight. But autonomous versus non-autonomous, certainly Australian law, if it is flying by itself and you don't have the ability at any time to take over and say, go up, go left, go right, your descend, then that wouldn't meet the requirements, as I understand it, under Australian law at the moment.
Well, the beacon does allow you to have control over it. You just hold the button and then you point it up or down if you want it to go up or down.
Is that all you can do? Can you fully pilot
No. You can send it out away from yourself. You can pull it in. You can do basic piloting maneuvers, but remember, it's you're only lining it up for your shot that it's going to be recording at. So, but can you take over the drone? Yes. If you hit that button, you'll be able to stop everything it's doing, and
Okay. So, look, it's an interesting one to look at. I don't know enough about the beacon and what you can and can't do with it, but certainly fully autonomous is not permitted over here at the moment, but we'll see. We'll see when...
Well, technically, I don't think it could be classified as fully autonomous. Because you've got a controller of some sort at some point. Line of sight, yes, but autonomous, it's not fully autonomous.
Yeah, I guess the definition is what is required in the form of a controller to be saying it is fully controllable. Anyway, look, it's an interesting discussion point, and let's leave that one there. Just before we go, Dan, open source. I've got a view that open source is a good thing. You've got the same view, but I've got a view that it will never happen for the major drone manufacturers. They're never going to open their code up and let everyone go and do what they want. So what's the middle ground? I've suggested that an open API that can be common across all manufacturers and with the ability to allow plugins, if you like, and drop in Python modules in some products or whatever, use a common bus. Do you think that would work?
Boy, I think convincing the manufacturer to allow it would be the hard part. Getting people on board would be the easy part. It's the people that have control over the software and stuff that would be the real issue. We saw that with 3DR. 3DR was the same way. It took them 5 years to release the open source to everybody completely. And and Karma's going the same way. GoPro still won't release the open source ability for Karma. It's a complete open source platform, but you can't access it because Karma won't release it. So I think getting the manufacturers on board to allow that to happen would be extremely difficult. I'm sure the people want it, but that doesn't mean that they do.
Let me put it another way. If you have a look at networks and routers and switches and all that kind of thing, there's a concept called a software-defined network, where each of the boxes out there runs its operating system, but it's got a common API that you can configure it centrally. And that's what I'm dreaming is going to happen for drones eventually. The drones are going to have their own operating system, closed source, their own whatever it is. You can have sandboxes for little plugins or something like that, but you've got this common bus that you can talk to the drone with. And then you've got a software-defined drone environment. You've got the one layer that can orchestrate and do all of this stuff, but you can then pick which drone you want for the right jobs for different things based on their capabilities. That, I think, could be exciting. Very insightful response.
I'm trying to figure out where to go with that one. Well, you kind of pegged me on that. I'm not sure how. I don't know, because I can't see. I can't see these how you would get that across. Like, how would you first of all be able to crack it to be able to get it into even change? You know what I'm saying? To start the setup you're talking about, like somebody has to get in.
Someone has to start it. Someone has to get on board with the idea, right? So today, a lot of different drones use Mavlink protocol, etc., right? So the Mavlink protocol
Solo,
is now fairly standard, right? So instead of the Mavlink protocol, there'd be some other protocol, and a manufacturer or a creator or open source group or whoever would go and create this and then say, right, who wants to jump on board with this new protocol? The protocol would allow drone manufacturers to say, yes, we will allow you to install plugins, a Python application, which will actually run on the drone, but it'll run in a sandbox and be secure so they can still keep their closed source, secret source to themselves, but it can still extend the functionality of the original hardware and software platform. That's where I think it should go.
Okay, I see more along the lines of what you're saying now. I still think it's going to be difficult to get the companies to agree to that. I just like, unless you're going to reverse engineer what they have going on because they say no, I don't see it going cross-platform across the whole drone base.
I don't think you need to reverse engineer though. If you just worked out, okay, here's the existing Mavlink protocol. We're going to go and build on that and add some other stuff onto it. Call it Mavlink V2 or V10 or whatever you want to call it. And all of these extensible features get built on top. So the existing functionality works. And the only thing that then needs to happen is the existing drone manufacturers can decide what extensions they want to support. Should it be built on top of Mavlink? I don't know. That's another question for another day. Anyway,
you still keep coming back to the manufacturer though, and I just don't think they're going to go for it. You think so?
I think in time it will happen, because the first one that goes and creates it will go and get more sales out of it. Very, very simply. It's as simple as that.
But that was the Solo in a heart. Like that was.
No, it wasn't, because your argument was
not out the hole. That's true. Not out the hole. It was not. It didn't get released until 2017. So 2015 to the end of 2017, it was pretty much a locked platform. I would agree with that.
Yep.
Okay. You could still do stuff with it within reason if you knew the right people. Then they would allow you to tamper with things. But that's where we had an issue, was the drone manufacturer didn't want to open it up for everybody to play with it. And when they did, they just now did it 5 years later. That's why I said I think getting all these companies on board, or let's just say even half of them on board to do this, would still be a very difficult challenge. It would be worth it. I would totally say it's worth it if we could manage that. But
look at how I know where Greg's going with this in a way, and I'm thinking, look at how successful the Raspberry is for people right now as a computer. Yeah, everybody that's into this, is doing that. Now, if somebody can do the same thing with a drone and develop
I'm doing the reverse, though. We're doing the reverse. We're saying, don't give us a Raspberry Pi where you can, on day one, tinker and modify everything. Don't do that. On day one, give us the hardware platform and a closed environment, because the hardware manufacturers want to keep their secret sauce. Got it.
Right.
But provide an API to allow the interface to control it and to do the magic. Open that up on day one. That would be cool. But I don't want to go on this forever and ever because we got a lot to get through. Dan, thank you for being part of the show. I'd like to ask you to stick around. We're going to do some more news stories, and we're going to have some fun with Stump the Yank in a while. You up for it?
I'm up for it. Okay.
So let's move on, and we're going to go to our next news story at the moment, the Navy test flight. The US Navy's MQ-25A Stingray drone flew for the first time last month, marking a major step towards integrating it into the carrier air wing of the future. The Stingray isn't the first drone that the Navy has flown, but it will be the first to regularly fly off a carrier flight deck. The aircraft will refuel other planes, extending the range of aircraft like the Super Hornet and the Lightning II. This flight test lasted for 2 hours under the control of Boeing, and really, really cool product. Cool idea. Refueling drone.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. And they'll, you've got a drone out there. If something happens, you're not losing a whole crew. You're losing a drone, because, refueling accidents happen all the time. So, well, not all the time, but they can happen. And this is a safer way to do the refueling.
Kind of the military version of that battery bomb wings the other day.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because and it would be much better, like for a guy like me that wouldn't want to be hanging out the back of the aircraft or sitting down there in this little cubby trying to guide that thing in there. He could be sitting back in the office, drinking a cup of coffee and refueling the guy out in the middle of the Indian Ocean instead of having to be there himself.
Absolutely. So our next story today, tethered systems. Speaking of extending flight times, tethered systems can extend flight times for drones. However, there is always a challenge to manage durability and the weight of a tether. A company called Aria created a microfilament tethered system to allow flight lasting for days rather than the standard minutes of most battery-powered UAVs. Their system was touted as being capable of flying in adverse weather and conditions and high winds, and supposedly up to 400 feet altitude. Unlike a tethered drone, the company ran out of energy and they ceased business in March this year, however. But today, thermal imaging company FLIR announced that it has acquired the intellectual property and some of the operating assets from the former company. Really cool technology, a tether that is so light, and they call it a microfilament, very, very thin, and the weight is what you've got to keep down while maintaining the strength to be able to get up to 400 feet.
But I don't think that was the right picture you showed.
I wasn't watching. What was the picture? Show me the picture.
It looked like a Mavic or something doing something weird.
Had a big pack on the end of it.
Put it on again. Let me see. Yeah, put it back up. Go back up. Let me have a look. That was not the right picture.
There's the picture.
That's the one we wanted.
I think we talked about this, that the 3DR had a tether system that actually they flew the 3DR for 45 days straight before they landed it, and on their tether system, which is pretty incredible to me, I think. So yeah,
what altitude? Do you know what altitude they got up to?
Yeah, so they only gave it 215 feet of slack. So they parked it at 200 feet and left it there for 45 days. Gave it a little wandering room. So,
okay.
They have flight footage of that whole thing on YouTube, man. They did a time lapse of the entire event. It's crazy.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Now, that other picture that we saw, let's get that one off the screen. Oops. Okay, so the next story, Anduril has unveiled the Interceptor, a counter-drone built solely to take down other robotic flyers by ramming them at high speed. It requires human operators' permission for takedowns, but can be triggered through AI and automatically acquire targets using computer vision. The company is hoping that this will protect military units and key infrastructure against hostile drones, whether they're improvised bombers or purpose-built recon vehicles. This is cool. So it's approaching from either above or below and literally just ramming itself against a hostile drone to go and take it out.
It's a
battering
Dodge.
ram.
It's a ram drone.
Yeah, a ram drone. There you go.
Yeah, it's a Dodge.
And if the name of the company founder was Roger, you could call it Roger Ramjet. Oh,
it's going downhill fast.
Oh boy.
Our next story, an innovative company has created a drone that sucks garbage from water. The waste shark collects plastics, microplastics, and floating debris by moving through water and collecting them in its body. This technology is a big step towards reducing plastic pollution in our oceans and waterways. Created by Rand Marine, the water shark was modelled after another efficient large feeder, the whale shark. The drone can hold 200 litres of trash and work 16 hours a day. In their tests, it also monitors the water for waste chemicals and alien plant species. Really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I live on a waterway, and at the opening video you see is me flying around the water out the back. And from time to time, with bad weather, you see some nasty stuff on the water, and it'd be a really cool idea for our local council to go and get one of those. But the problem is you'll have two councils battling because one side is one council and the other side is another council, and who's going to pay for it?
Where is that big island of floating plastic? Do you know what I'm talking about? Isn't there somewhere that has
Yeah.
What if they put one of those that had a saw on the front so they could cut chunks off, and then one could just go out and retrieve it and bring it in? You know, I'm just like, and now it's got me thinking. I'm like, God, you could really have some fun with this, you know, and clean up the environment.
Absolutely. But before we go and clean up the environment, let's get into our next story. Boeing has a 227 kilogram capacity cargo air vehicle, and it completed some forward flight tests in an outdoor environment. The company commenced their testing earlier this year and has since completed more than 90 flights, according to a release from the company. During a recent 3-minute flight test, their vehicle took off, hovered, and then flew several thousand feet down the runway along a pre-programmed flight path before landing. After the testing of the vertical takeoff and landing and now forward flight capabilities, they're going to equip the drone with various payloads and move into a load analysis and do other performance tests.
That's like a Would You Ride It segment.
Well, it's a cargo drone. It's a cargo drone. And you know what? One of the really cool ideas about something that they can transport, people are always complaining about how do you ship lithium batteries, right? So shipping chemicals and batteries and all of those kind of things in planes, and they're worried about the risk of that on a manned aircraft. This would be cool for going and shipping batteries around. Just something that came to mind. But I've got one last story.
That is a good idea.
I've got one last story. Now, this one's a slightly longer video. It's a couple of minutes, but here's what it is. The title of this story is Situational Awareness. Now, I want you to watch this video, and as we're playing it, and this is kind of a bit of a competition, there's no prize, but a competition to our viewers. What is it that's going to happen? Tell me what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Here we go.
Oh, I can think of it. all sorts of things that's going to happen here.
Okay, but watch.
Oh, yes. Oh.
So there's our little gimbal jump, and he stops there. Something happened to his gimbal at that point. People in the chat, what's going to happen? I deliberately wanted to play the entire video instead of just waiting for what it was going to happen. Come on, pick it. What's going to happen? Dan.
The other side.
Oh gosh, man! I at first I thought that other boat was going to run across the tow rope, but that didn't happen. I just hope the thing flies up and takes out the drone with the tubers on it.
Someone is going swimming, okay?
Yeah.
So you think it's running out of battery?
Oh yeah. I think it's taking a swim.
Yep. Return to home. That's what Drone Shots put up.
So I'll let you know we're halfway through the video. It's an enjoyable video all by itself, but it's just got that really nice ending.
That's a good pullback shot too. I'm envisioning a giant shark coming up out of the water and
just snatching it out.
Yeah.
By the way, please do go and have a look at the description for this week's show. Go to Nathan Rodriguez's channel, and he says in his video there, I took my drone to Canyon Lake a few weeks ago. I got some great shots, but kind of, I'm not going to tell you the next bit.
Okay, first of all, I just want to point out whoever gave this guy his boating license, he has no idea what he's doing. You don't go right to left on a lake. You have to cross over the other side and then come back the opposite direction. Somebody needs to take that guy's license away.
So you can see a fair bit of props on one side there, so there's obviously a bit of wind across.
Which probably means he's eating up his battery life.
Yeah, but is that it?
I keep hoping that tube's going to come up and knock him out of the air.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm waiting on, man.
I don't want it for the guy that owned the drone, but on the other hand, yes! Didn't see that one coming.
Where were you going, bro?
That's why I titled this thing Situational Aware.
He was so focusing on his target out there, and he swung wide and just took it over on the shore.
Yeah. Look, I've invited him to come onto the channel at some point. I don't know if he's in the chat room today. I did ask him to come in, but it's a really, really cool story. Now, here's what we're going to do next, Dan. I did say we're going to do our FPV Korner, but I'm going to skip that bit for now. And we're going to go across to... Let me find my magic button. It's around here somewhere. There it is.
Chris Hope he'd said it earlier.
Oh, no.
I'm waiting for my producer to press the audio button that goes with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stop the Yank.
Whoa.
Okay, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's that game that we love, that our guests hate. We get to go and make them look like absolute idiots and fools because they don't know anything at all. It's nothing as simple as Stump the Yank. Now, I'm trying to find out which fader that is because... Oh, there we go. There we go. So we'll put that music down a little bit. Let's get into it. So I've got a few questions for you, Dan. Let's kill the music.
Oh, no, don't.
Okay. You ready?
Slow down, man. I might chunder. Go ahead.
For those who are not Aussies, chunder is one of the Australian words that Dan proudly said he researched before coming on the show so that he at least knew one Aussie word. And if you're not an Aussie, go and look it up. Moving right along. What is the name of a drink, Dan? You
Okay.
drink, yeah?
Yeah.
What is the name of a drink that consists of Bundaberg rum, condensed milk, and an emu's egg?
What? I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to give you 4 answers.
Oh,
I'll just tell you the ingredients again. Bundaberg rum, condensed milk, and an emu's egg. So, option A, Diamantina cocktail. Option B, Flightless Freddy. Option C, Abundian Yolka. Or D, this isn't a real drink.
Yo, I'm going with C.
You're going with C?
I'm going
Lloyd,
with
have you got
C.
actually, have I got a buzzer button? I should really get one of those one day.
Oh,
have you got a
man.
buzzer, Lloyd?
Let me see if I can get one here real quick.
But no.
Yeah, that's not it.
No, that'll do. The Diamantina cocktail was named after the area that it was invented in. And it's also the title of the Little River Band's 3rd album. They're an Australian band, so there you go. So that's one fail. And Lloyd, we should really have you answering as well to work out if either of you are going to get it. Let's see.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got it either.
Okay. Question 2, and we'll have Dan answer first. What is a bushman's clock? Is it a kookaburra laughing? Answer A. Answer B, making a mark on a gum tree at sunrise and using that to calculate the time. Option C, watching a wombat return to its burrow. Or option D, sweating in your swag when the sun rises.
I'm totally going with D.
Sweating in your swag when the sun rises? No. A kookaburra laughing. I forgot to ask Lloyd.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You did.
Would you have got that one?
No.
No, you wouldn't have got that one either?
No.
Okay.
Oh my.
I've got 2 more. I'm going to switch the order. So if I'm Pat Malone, what am I? I'll say it again. If I am Pat Malone, what am I? Answer A, a Queenslander. And I'll just qualify that by saying the colours of Queensland's is maroon when they go in their sporting competitions. Option B, a telephone. Option C, alone. Option D, a tropical cyclone. Dan.
C?
I'm going with the telephone.
Dan, you've got one up on Lloyd. Have you got a D, Lloyd?
Yeah.
That's the best I can do right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I've got one more. And this one, now I'm going to have to, this is hard. Okay. What is a try-anti-won't-I gongalope? I'll repeat it again. What is a try-anti-won't-I gongalope? Is it A, a fool, B, a town in the middle of nowhere, C, a mythical insect similar to a bunyip, or D, yet another slang term for beer?
I am so going to go with D on this one.
I'm going with D on that one, too.
Lloyd, buzzer, please. It's a mythical insect similar to a bunyip.
Yeah, of course. God.
There
Well, at
you
least
go.
you got one, Dan. I didn't get any, and I talk to these guys every day. You know, that's a sad sack when when I don't know any of this. You know.
Well, let's not talk about sad sacks when Dan's around.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't resist that one. That was a good one.
That is a good one. I have to give you credit on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to hold back on the FPV Korner. We'll keep that for next week. And now we're going to go into our Explore Australia segment. We've got some great videos up today. Let's play. Oops, not that one. That one. So this first clip is from Skyview VP and it's shot in York, Western Australia. He shot this using a DJI Mavic 2 Pro, and it was shot by Tosif Pathan is the name of the pilot. I say this every week, but I want everyone who's in here to go and have a look at the description for this video and check out the channels of all of the people who are being featured in there today. That would be really helpful to them. Let them know you heard about them here as well.
Oh, see, that's a good reveal shot there.
Yeah.
So when are you coming down under, Dan?
Ooh, that is a good question, isn't it, man? I think first take care of all the surgeries, then save the money for the down under. Right now,
I thought that's where the surgery were at.
Yeah, I was gonna say right now I'm saving up to fix the down under.
Yeah, either that or you'll need a cargo plane for the extra weight.
Excuse me, sir. You have to buy 2 seats. I don't know what you're gonna do with that basketball or why it's in your pants.
This one's from one of our regulars, Ozbeach Andy, and this is South Australia by drone. Aldinga Beach at low tide in Port Willunga, 46 k's from Adelaide. This is one of the most popular beach hangs in South and one of the most photographed. Soft sandy beach overlooked by cliffs where fishermen once carved out caves to store their boats and nets, and they're now greatly valued as pleasant family haven and shade from the scorching summer sun. Fast fact, jetty pylons, also known as the sticks, are all that remain of this coastal village's early days as a grain port. I see these videos each and every week and we definitely have the best place to be, so you've definitely got to make some time. And Ken said he's getting a passport this week. He actually promised he was going out, and I said, where are you going? He said, he's driving to, I can't remember the name of the place. And I said, okay, on the way, go to the post office. And he agreed. So he's going and filling in his passport form this week. So everyone go and harass him about it. Has he filled it in yet?
He probably just went and picked it up, hadn't filled it in.
Man, look at all that erosion.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you talk about that. We have a place that's close to us down here called Kuhnert. And when I was young, we had these absolutely massive, massive sand hills. And unfortunately, there's a company that owned mining rights to mine all the sand out of there, and those sand hills are long gone. There's one lone sand hill left that's used by athletes to go and run up and down the hill for training and stuff. But yeah, it's just so sad to see what used to be there all gone. This one, the channel is David DJI, Kennedy Park in Western Australia, taken using a DJI Phantom 3S. Yes, a 3S is still taking some beautiful footage. He took off at 15 meters and his height for the entire flight was plus or minus 5 meters until the end prior to landing at 30 meters. This is his first flight using Litchi.
Oh boy. Well, I have my thoughts about Litchi.
I think in its day it was good because there were some things that it did that you couldn't do with the standard apps, but
yes,
I think we've moved on past there now.
I think it's a bit unstable now for the new software that they still kept upgrading to, so just be careful running Witchy these days.
Speaking of which, quick little piece of news. I got a message from one of the Morrison aerial robotics pilots this week. They're commenting about the recent Mavic firmware. Let me see if I can get the message up. Actually, I'll tell you about the next clip first. Tulip, no. Gizmo Drones, St Kilda Botanical Gardens in Spring by Drone, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Famous St Kilda Botanical Gardens on a beautiful spring day. The pilot met a lovely person there from Friends of St Kilda Botanical Gardens who let me film inside the greenhouse. He discovered they provide guided walks and also selling plants. Shot with a DJI Mavic Air.
That palm tree shot was killer.
Yeah.
That was very dynamic of whoever was filming to think that one out. You won't go through. Come on, go through. What? Find the gap. All right.
I can't find that message at the moment, but ultimately there was an alert about the new Mavic firmware, some instability with that. So just if you're thinking and planning of upgrading, just hold back and check out some of the DJI forums until you hear that it's safe.
Those flowers?
Yeah.
Wow, those are tall.
We've got them outside in our house. If I remember correctly, they're called a Gymea lily, I think. Is that? Yep.
That was a good shot. Ooh.
And Gymea is actually a suburb that's very close, so that's where they originated, I believe. My daughter actually goes to Gymea High School.
Who is this currently shooting right now? He does an excellent job figuring out the dynamics of each shot.
This is Gizmo Drones, and as I said, it's at the St Kilda Botanical Gardens.
He takes some pretty good footage.
And our last one today, this one's by Tien NGO. I don't know how to say that. No, I'll just assume the G is silent. Tulip Top Gardens, Heaven on Earth is the title of the video. Some footage of the beautiful Tulip Top Gardens just outside of Canberra, Australia. Truly magical place to visit and spend a day immersing yourselves in the wonderful tulips and cherry blossoms, opening between 14th of September and 13th of October. He filmed that with a Mavic Air, and he also says thanks to the owners, Bill and Pat, for allowing him to shoot this footage and creating this magical heavenly place.
Oh, and for the Yanks that were listening to that last video, it was the St. Kilda Botanical Gardens, not the Kilda Botanical Gardens, which is what I thought he was saying. Bloody Aussie accent.
Nice reveal there going up.
Dan and I were both turning our heads looking at that sideways like, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
You know, it's always good to watch in the background the cameras that you guys can't see of the guests and things that they do behind the scenes.
Right.
We've got it. I'm just thinking about the opening music and playing it again so we can see Dan doing a little bit of... yeah, that's the stuff.
Yeah, he reminds me of that. He reminds me of that gopher on Caddyshack.
Yeah.
I had a cousin. He was about 5'1", and he danced like that. I swear to God, a little guy. You know, he was a tunnel rat in Vietnam because he was so short. You know, but whenever he danced, we'd go to the clubbing together, and I couldn't watch him dance.
Oh heck, I know how to dance. That's just cool.
That's Just a quick announcement. I'm just seeing someone in the chat there at the moment. Victorian Aerial Vision. He's going to be our guest next weekend. So thank you for that.
Ken's friend.
Which Ken's friend?
Ken
Heron friend?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. Not that I know of. I guess we'll find out in a couple of moments. You can comment in the chat. But he'll be on as our guest next weekend.
Yeah, I think, what, oh, well, I'll just run it past you afterwards.
Okay. You were going to run what by me?
I think I'll just wait until afterwards. Just get your opinion first before I throw it out there.
Oh, you want to ask me something that you don't want to say on air?
Oh, I mean, I can. I just, all right. What would you say to doing a show every other week called Everything Open Source?
Drone open source or open source in general?
Everything open source, drone related, obviously, but as far as title goes, it would be catchy as Everything Open Source.
Yeah, could be interesting. Could be interesting. I mean, you know, I'm a coder. Every day I'm writing code. So, yeah. Look, we can chat about that off air. I'm not averse to it. I'm not averse to it.
There's a maybe. A good politician always gives great maybes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we've reached the end of the show, and just a couple of quick announcements. Number one, do me a favor, get on your favorite social media platform. Follow us, like us, share us, do whatever it is you want to do for your favorite platform. If you would like to send something to us, this is how you can do it. Send it to upload@gregkuhnert.com. Please send a link, not the actual files, because contrary to popular belief, most systems cannot take things that big, except for Dan's. Let's move on. The postal address, if you want to send anything, is 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 22224. So that's all we've got time for today. Any last words from you first, Lloyd?
No, I just I was glad Dan was here. I always enjoy visiting with Dan. We have a lot of fun, and it was a fun show. And don't forget my shows Monday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, the Grumpy Blogger channel.
And Dan?
I'm just here, man. Thanks for having me. I just normally do my own thing, and I have fun doing it. I'm just a hobbyist. I don't push myself as a show or anything. I just have fun and share information. So if you like that kind of stuff, pop on over to my channel and get engaged. You know.
Okay.
Lloyd,
absolutely.
It's been fun.
Yes, it has been, Dan.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you everyone for watching. Thanks for joining in and participating today. We'll see you again next time. But other than that, bye for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.